Hi everyone. So today we're going to learn how to represent linear relationships using tables and graphs. Over the past week, we've used tables to find rate of change, which is also just known as slope, and also finding slope from a graph. And we're going to eventually use slope to help us graph linear relationships when given just the equation. But today is just a focus of using the relationship and using a table and graph to represent it. So let's look at the first question. So the equation y equals 3x plus 2 gives the total charge for one person y renting a pair of shoes and bowling X games at Baxter Bowling Games based on the prices shown. Make a table of values for this situation. So they're telling us that X represents the number of games. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 games. And Y would be the total cost in dollars. So looking back at the equation and also looking at the picture that we have here, it costs $3 per game and shoe rentals cost $2. So 2 is our constant because you pay $2 for shoes and nothing more. And then you're paying $3 per game and it gets multiplied by the number of games. So we want to know if you paid one game, how much would it cost? So I'm going to take my equation, y equals 3x plus 2, and I'm going to replace x with my value of 1. So y equals 3 times, replacing x with 1, plus 2. Y equals 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2, and then 3 plus 2 is 5. So if you played one game of bowling, it would cost $5. So now what would be the cost if you played 2 games? So again, I'm going to take my equation, y equals 3x plus 2, and x is our number of games, so we want to know what would it be if x was 2. So y equals 3 times 2 plus 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8, so y is equal to 8. So it costs $8 to play 2 games. What about if you played 3 games? So again, we're just going to substitute in. So y equals 3x plus 2. I'm going to replace x with 3. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So 3 games would cost $11. And then we want to find out the cost if you played 4 games. So y equals 3x plus 2. Y equals 3 times 4 plus 2. So that would be 12 plus 2, which is 14. So it would cost $14 if you played 4 games. So if you had to graph this on a coordinate plane, what ordered pairs would you graph to represent the situation? But remember, these represent an XY pair. So my points would be 1, 5, 2, 8, 3, 11, and 4, 14. All right, so let's move on to question number 2. The entrance fee for Mountain World theme park is $20. Visitors purchase additional $2 tickets for rides, games, and food. The equation y equals 2x plus 20 gives the total cost y to visit the park, including x tickets. So just looking at our equation, we see that our total cost is equal to 2 times the number of tickets, because it's $2 per ticket, plus $20 to enter. So we want to complete the table for the number of tickets to find out what the cost would be. So we're given the first one, which 0 tickets cost $20. Well, that makes sense, because if you're paying $20 to get in, it's $20 to start before you even purchase tickets to rides, games, and food. So this is our initial amount. This is, if we were graphing, that's where we would start. but we want to know what would the cost be for 2 tickets, 4 tickets, 6 tickets, and 8 tickets. So we're going to take our equation, y equals 2x plus 20, and we're going to replace x for the given amount. So I'm going to start with 2 tickets. So y equals 2 times 2 plus 20. So that would be 4 plus 20, which is 24. What about if you bought 4 tickets? So now we need to do 2 times 4 plus 20. So that would be 28, because 8 plus 20. Then for 6 tickets, we have to do 2 times 6 plus 20. And 12 plus 20 would be 32. And for 8 tickets, we're doing 2 times 8 plus 20. So we get 16 plus 20, which would be equal to 36. So now we want to plot the ordered pairs on the table. These are your ordered pairs here. We put your x and y relationship together. So I'm going to plot 0, 20, 2, 24, 4, 28, 6, 32, and 8, 36. And luckily it's already numbered for us. So 0, 20, then I have 2, 24, 4, 28, 6, 32, and 8, 36. And then I'm going to draw my line going through the points and put an arrow. Now I want to find my rate of change. So remember, you can either use 2 points and find the change in y and change in x, or you can count the rise and run. I'm going to do it both ways just to make sure you know how to do it both ways. So let's say I want to pick 2 points. I'm just going to pick my first 2 points. So I have to do my change in y. So 24 minus 20 over my change in x. So 2 minus 0. So 24 minus 20 would be 4. 2 minus 0 is 2. And I get a slope of 2. So my rate of change would be $2 per ticket. But we could also find that from the graph by counting our rise and our run. So we're just going to pick 2 points and we're going to count how much we have to go rise, which is going up, and then run, which is going right. So I'm just going to pick this point and this point here. So I need to take notice that my y-axis is counting by 4s. So when I rise up 1, it's actually a rise of 4. And then I need to take notice on my x-axis that it's counting by 1s. So when I count over 1, 2, it's counting by 1. So my rise is 4, my run is 2, and they're both positive because I'm going up, which is positive, and right, which is positive. And that would give me a slope of 4 over 2, which is 2. And I should get the same amount. All right, so now let's flip over to the back. Okay, so for question number 3, we want to make a table and graph the solutions for the equation y equals negative half x plus 1. So I didn't give you any values, so this time you're going to choose your own. You can choose anything that you want for your x values, and you're always going to choose x values because you want to find out what y is. But you want to choose values that will, first of all, fit on your graph. If I look at my graph here, it only goes from negative 6 to 6 in both directions. And then also I need to take notice that my x is going to be multiplied by a negative half. So I probably wouldn't want to choose odd values because then that's going to give me non-integer answers. So I should probably pick even numbers. So I'm going to start with picking 0 because substituting in 0 is very easy, and you should always pick 0 as a value. So if x is 0, that means that y is equal to negative half times 0 plus 1. So negative half times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 1 is 1. So if x is 0, y is 1. Now I'm going to pick another value. I'm going to pick if x were 2, because I want to pick even values. So if x is 2, then y is equal to negative half times 2 plus 1. So negative half times 2 would be negative 1, because you are multiplying with one negative. And negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So if x is 2, y is 0. Now I'm going to pick 4. So I'm going to do y equals negative half times 4 plus 1. So negative half times 4 would be negative 2, plus 1 would be negative 1 because they're different signs, so I'm subtracting. I can also pick negative values. So instead of going up to 6, I'm going to pick negative 2. So if y is if x is negative 2, y is equal to negative half times negative 2 plus 1. So negative times negative is a positive. Half times 2 would be 1, and 1 plus 1 would be 2. So now I'm going to take these points and I'm going to plot them on my coordinate plane. So we're going to start with 0, 1. So I stay at the origin, go up 1. 2, 0. So I go right 2, and then I stay because it says 0 for my y. 4, negative 1 means go to the right 4, down 1. And then negative 2, 2 means I want to go left 2, up 2. And if you did your table correctly, all your points would line up. So now I'm going to draw my line, going through my points. And then I want to make sure that I label this with the equation y equals negative half x plus 1. So now I'd like you to try to do questions 4 and 5. Number 5, there's a graph here. If you are not able to print out the work and you're just doing it on the slide, do your best to graph it. If you can't graph it, no big deal. Any questions you have, just make sure you send me a message.